Hi, I'm Candice Lapin, and I wanted to talk a little bit today about the process and take you through the process of actually start to finish writing a personal statement. So if you are a college student or you are the parent of a college student that is currently stumped, this is a really, really great exercise to go through with them. If you yourself are the person stuck, I really want to go through what it's like to work with me one-on-one and really think through the process of writing the personal statement. So if you and I were sitting together, the first thing I would do is tell you we need to brainstorm like 3 to 5 ideas, which sounds like a lot, but let me tell you something. When you're really having to decide on a great story, sometimes the first story could be your best, and sometimes it's the 4th or 5th that's really the one that I'm gonna really like. So when I have students sitting with me, I never kind of take the easy way. I really want to push you to write your ultimate best story, right? Because when I work with students, they'll often come to me with 3 or 4 essays that I think, is interesting, they think are interesting. And I think it's not just about interesting, it's about meaningful, right? It's not necessarily about being the most interesting, perfect. It's not about a perfect story. It's about something that's actually going to make them feel like they're connected, like they have a really, really good sense of who you are. So I want you to take this time. I'm going to give you 3 to 5 minutes to kind of brainstorm what your top 3 to 5 most pivotal experiences are. And if you were working with me, I'd say to you, let's draw everything from 9th to 12th grade, and even more 10th through 12th. Right? So you're going to want to think about some stuff. Now, if I was brainstorming with you, I would say to you, let's think about all the stuff you've done over the summer. So you're going to want to start really thinking about summer. What have you done? And oftentimes it's interesting, but people don't really think the things I do over the summer are not that interesting. Oh no, it could be. So I had one student who had traveled to Africa to do a summer abroad program, building a school or building a house for a group of kids in Africa. And it wasn't that piece that he ended up writing about. It was actually his trip in the airport and getting stuck and having to work through a really, really tense process because he got stuck in immigration, and it was actually really terrifying for him. So he and his friend, and he didn't speak the language, and he had to stay calm. And in that moment, he was really able to summon a part of him that he didn't even know he knew he had. So that's a really great example. Another summer, another student we had went to go visit his grandparents over the summer. If you watched my video on the top 3 tips, then you kind of heard me talk about this, but I love this essay. It's stuck with me since this child wrote it, because it was so profound and so meaningful when he was able to disconnect from technology, when he was forced by his parents to go visit his grandparents over the summer on a ranch that had no television and no electricity to speak of, right? They had limited electricity. So that was a great story. It wasn't so much that he did something that was meaningful. It was something in that experience really spoke to him and really changed him. So I want you to take this moment, and I'm going to be quiet for 3 minutes. And you're going to write down some ideas, things that you think really, really represent who you are. So go. Okay, so now that you have your 3 to 5 experiences, I want you to rank them 1 through 5. 1 being the one that you think is your favorite story, and 5, the one that you think has the least, because we're not going to toss those. Those potentially we could use for the supplemental essay. So you never know when you're going to repurpose and reuse the work that we do here. So I don't trash anything, and I don't want you to trash anything. So now that we have picked, I want you to take a second and really talk about get separate pieces of paper for each one, and we're gonna really think about brainstorming on each essay. So what I want you to think about is I want you to take a piece of paper, and at the top, you're gonna give me what the experience was. And then you're gonna write, where were you before all of this happened? What were you like before, right? If you were telling the story of your life and you were telling somebody about this experience, you wanna think about who were you like before this ever happened to you? So then you're gonna wanna draw a line, and then you're gonna talk about what was the pivotal moment that you think, what was that date? You wanna think about, like, was it the summer between 9th and 10th grade? Was it Christmas break of your 10th grade year? Was it your birthday? It doesn't matter. You wanna think about the date. And then you're going to write down what that, moment was, right? Was it somebody on the street that stopped you on January 22nd of whatever year? And then you're going to talk about how long it took you to really transform, right? Like, what were all the little steps? What were all the little conclusions that you started to realize after that catalyst happened in your life, or set of catalysts? And then you're going to want to think about the takeaway, right? What was the takeaway that you want to leave somebody with, right? And so I'm now going to ask you to stop, and you're going to do this at different times. You don't have to do this all right now, but I want you to take about 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, and really think this through and really brainstorm per essay. So this is not going to be something that you can do all in one sitting. This is something where this video, and this is shocking because most webinars don't tell you, you might have to watch this webinar over several days, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not about how quickly we can get this done. It's about the quality that we're going to turn out when we get it done. So I'm going to ask you to hit the stop button, and hopefully you'll come back, and I will have some more tips on what I want us to do with the next part of the essay. Hi, okay, so hopefully you have worked on a couple, and if you only have one or two, that's okay too. This is such a stressful time that this is really about making it as unstressful, as not stressful as possible, right? It's not about being perfect. It's about telling your story so that this person that's sitting, at a desk with a group of other people get to know who you are. So, I think the things to focus on are really like that beginning, the middle, the end, the transformation. So now what you're going to want to do is take the first essay that you've been working on, and you're going to want to think about, what is the overall theme? What is the through line, right? When I talk about through lines in my life, funny enough, I always talk about the process of becoming more and more and more myself, more and more authentic, right? Like, that's been a really, really important through line when I used to write stories and personal statements about myself. What about this specific moment made me realize who I am, and made me realize that I need to be more authentic in my life? Like, in my life, my challenges were always about not being accepted for who I was, or feeling like if I could just be accepted for who I was. And so a lot of the transformation that I used to go through, or was pushing through the discomfort of being honest about who I was in all circumstances, no matter who was in front of me. And so you really want to think about, we all have those through lines. Like, what when you think on your life, what are the things that you feel like the lessons of your life that are really come up over and over? Is it about being honest with your friends? Is it about having, integrity? Is it about being ethical? Is it about having a really, really strong voice and sticking up for your friends? what's that through line? That's what we want to get to. That's what I want to uncover. That's what I want those people to see about you, because I want them to think to themselves, this is a person I want on this campus. Like, they're amazing. They're great. They're this, they're that. They're so caring, you know? And if you are the person that, you know, stands up for other people, like, that's what I want conveyed on the page. It's not just about giving a chronology of, you know, here's who I was on campus, here's who I am now. No, we want to think about, I had a student who had gone to rehab, and his parents at the time thought, and really, really reflected to me that they were deeply concerned about him going to college, because this appeared to be such a big blemish on his transcript. And I said, I don't think it's a blemish. I think that this is a real opportunity to show how your child has transformed his life, right? He made some choices, or he got involved with the wrong people. And then he had to go to rehab for 6 months and then re-enter school. And he gained an immense amount of maturity. And you could see that in his essay, right? That's what I wanted reflected in the essay. When one of his tutors, one of the people that worked for me, was working with him, they had an entirely different essay. And I said, that's not the good story to tell. The good story to tell was, who is he today because of this, without actually telling the story of his entire transformation. We wanted to talk about a piece of that experience. So we're not going to talk about all rehab, but we're going to talk about a couple of moments at rehab where he realized he was a different person, right? Who he walked in as, and how he came out the other side, and who he is now. That's the story. So we don't all have those kinds of dramatic stories. So if you're like, God, I don't have that dramatic story, don't worry, you'll get there. You just have to keep pushing yourself to get and draw the deeper thematic meanings of it. That's what you want to get to, right? In my life, a lot of people don't know this, but I come from a cross-cultural background. So I have one parent who is Jewish. I have another parent that's Hispanic. And so I grew up in this kind of cross-culture family, and I was always conflicted. I always felt like I had to choose. Am I this or am I this? So I ended up writing about, one of the essays I wrote was about not having to choose, but about learning to really mix both of the parts of me, that they're both part of me. And I don't have to decide between one or the other. I'm both. And I think if you have that story, that's also an interesting story. A lot of people come from two different backgrounds and have to resolve that conflict in identity. And I think that's just as meaningful a story, because especially in a time right now, there's so much conflict in the country. So anytime we can kind of draw some bigger themes, that's what we really want to think about. So for today, I want you to, for this next piece, right, we're now at part 3 of the break, you're going to want to think about, what is your through line? What is the takeaway? What are some points of connection that you can make about, like, a through line in your life, a lesson that you feel like you have to learn? And you're going to just like tuck that up in a box on the page to the right. Like, I want to reveal this by the end, right? Or this is something I'm working on, right? Or this is an insecurity that I have had to resolve. Or this is something that was uncomfortable for me at first, and then I pushed through. And then after that, you're going to want to do it. Rinse and repeat for all of the stories. And as you start to write these 3 stories or 4 stories, you're going to start to realize that 1 or 2 of them become really your favorite essay, or one of your favorite essays. And the point is that we want to end up with 2 to 3 really, really strong ones, so that depending on what is being asked, you can reuse it over and over and over again for different pieces of it, because a lot of these themes come up in different ways for different colleges. Like, a lot of schools will ask you to write up to 3 different distinct 650 word essays. And so you really want to have a repository of things to really pull from. You want a file folder of things that you can use, and then you can that are multi-purpose. So anyways, if you have more questions for me on a specific essay, or you want to speak to my staff about getting a little help, feel free to reach out to us at hello@theladdermethod. If you want more specific answers about some of the stories I've told you today, you can reach out to me at getanswers@theladdermethod.com. If you like what you've seen on our YouTube and our Instagram, then definitely hit like, share it, ring the bell, send us a message, or leave a comment. I really look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.